Yeah, I'm an open book. I believe that God, put me through what he did so that I can share with other people and encourage them and, maybe get in touch with somebody that's experiencing something similar or whatever. So yeah, I'm here to blab.
At just 33 years old, Mary Ann Peters has lived through more than most of us could ever imagine. From a lifelong battle with anorexia to surviving a life-threatening septic infection that resulted in amputations to rebuilding her health and her faith one meal at a time. Today, she's sharing how surrender, community, and the carnivore lifestyle helped her move from restriction and fear to freedom and healing. Her story is raw, powerful, and one you'll never forget. I'm Jackie Almer. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com. This is Marianne's journey, and it just might change how you see food, healing, and faith. Mary Ann Peters, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, gosh, where do we start? Your young age, your eating disorder, your treatment, your family philosophy on carnivore, finding and embracing carnivore, meat stock, your strong faith. There's so many different ways we can go.
Well, I mean, like I was just telling you, I'm here to share my story and hope that it encourages other people. So, where do you want me to start?
Well, why don't we go? Let's go back to 2018 when you started on the carnivore diet. We can talk a little bit about how you found it, what led you to that, and then we'll move on through, which is going to enlighten a lot of stuff. And if you need to go back further than that, let's do it. So the
Yeah, I
floor
might
is
I might
yours.
jump around a little bit, but yeah, no, so I've been carnivore since 2018 and I was keto for a couple of years before that, but I was including vegetables because I thought you had to, oh, obviously you have to get your nutrients from this broccoli and this spinach and blah, but let's find ways to dress it up and include it. And then I came across Dr. Ken Berry through one of it's called the Survival Podcast. It's a prepper podcast, but it's not all doom and gloom. It's just how to make your everyday life better and how to make yourself more self-sufficient as much as possible. How to prepare for any kind of eventuality, whether it's an earthquake or whether it's losing your job. You have to be self-sufficient and kind of mindful about the future. And then Dr. Ken Berry was on that show and he kind of gave me permission to lose the vegetables. I was like, well, this doctor is doing this thing, so it must be okay. And that's him behind me. I got to meet him at Meat Stock and I have a framed picture of it. That's how much I love this man. But
I
anyway,
love
so
that.
thank you, Dr. Berry. Um, but I was also in a marriage that was not working. I was under a lot of stress and I relapsed into my eating disorder and I continued to be carnivore through that relapse. And that was kind of a double whammy. So, imagine, first of all, just not eating enough. It was anorexia that I relapsed into. Not eating enough and then only eating meat, it was damaging to myself. And, a lot of people say carnivore is an eating disorder. Well, for me at the time, unfortunately, it was. And until I truly accepted Jesus as my savior in 2022 and started seeing that I need to love my body instead of hate it and nourish it so that I can live God's purpose in my life, that's when the switch flipped. And I said, well, I want to stay carnivore because it does provide the best template for me to eat properly and fuel myself, but I actually need to eat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think women undereat on the carnivore diet a lot. And I'm not saying, there's always an eating disorder under there, but I'm just saying we do tend to undereat when we first come to carnivore. And that was definitely my experience. But now, fortunately, I eat to satiety. I eat probably, I would say, close to 4 pounds of meat a day. It's quite a lot, either in 2 or 3 meals. But I'm also exercising and things like that. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's the start of it.
Well, let's go back. When did you become aware of your eating disorder and what would you say triggered it? If you can go back that, and if you know.
Well, I started under eating when I was 13. So it goes back a long ways. Yeah. And it was definitely
Usually does. Usually does.
Yeah, it was, I grew up in a very controlled household, a very, let's just say a household where I was very encouraged to achieve perfection. Okay, so I was raised by two doctors, um, and, we were blessed. Upper middle class, private school, had all the things, but I felt very controlled. I like to joke with people, I didn't have a curfew because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. You know what I mean? So, I used food as a way to control something in my life because I felt so very out of control. And, that my parents did take me to professionals when I was, 14, 15, and they basically just said, well, stuff her full of food, get her weight back up, and then we'll deal with it, it doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you put in there, just get it in there. Um, and unfortunately, that was also the philosophy. I went to another facility when I was after the septic infection in 2022. I went to a residential eating disorder treatment facility, and unfortunately, nothing had changed. The nutritional advice was essentially and they phrase it very tactfully as all foods fit, don't have any fear foods, eat the rainbow, all these sort of platitudes, which, um, you know, actually lead to relapse. And after I spoke with Dr. Baker about this, I started really thinking about it because it's like, part of me wonders, I think they know what they're doing. It's a business. It's a for-profit industry, and they want people to relapse and come back. Like some people do. I genuinely believe that. And then there's also people with good hearts.
Oh, you mentioned your septic infection. Let's go back and tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was living in Florida with not my now ex-husband at the time, and I picked up a bacterial infection from a hot tub at a gym. I had a slight cut in my leg, and apparently that's how the bacteria entered. And one night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I to use the bathroom. I couldn't even stand up. I couldn't get up on my left foot. It was so painful and debilitating. And my ex-husband took me to the emergency room. And the last thing I remember was a nurse offering me a Gatorade because my electrolytes were out of balance. So keep in mind, this is late 2022. I was still under eating on carnivore. And I had relapsed into my eating disorder. So I was already, my immune system was not prepared to handle this. Well, I had a heart attack. My kidneys shut down. I had to be on 24-hour dialysis. I had to be intubated. And the septic infection spread all up and down my body. You can see I had to get two fingers amputated here, and then I lost three toes and like a chunk of my left foot. So I only have two toes total today. I should have called myself like the two-toed sloth carnivore. I don't know. But
You have such a
anyway,
great attitude about all that. Tell us quickly, how old are you, Marianne?
I'm 33.
Okay, so we can do the math going back. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the doctors at that time, they wanted to amputate both of my legs because of the severity of the infection. But my parents and my husband said, well, let's get a second opinion. So they transferred me to another hospital. And at that hospital, they did a skin graft surgery. So they basically took what looks like a giant vegetable peeler and sliced off skin from my thighs and turned around and sewed it to like my calves where the infection was. And then they had to like debride the infection. So this was multiple surgeries. And I'm, in and out of anesthesia. I'm having visions. I'm literally having visions of demons circling my bed, like it's it was terrifying. I mean, I almost died. I had this one recurring dream nightmare of just this giant clock, with like red numbers counting down to my death. I
Wow.
somehow knew that it was counting down, and when I hit zero, I was going to die. But every time it hit zero, I woke up to the same music, and it just things like that. I mean, it was bananas. Um, but anyway, they did the skin graft surgery, and that held until this past May. They became infected, and it led to osteomyelitis. This was right at the end of meat stock, 2025 in May. And so the osteomyelitis occurred in my right ankle, and the doctors had to amputate my right leg below the knee. So that's where I am now, but fortunately, I'm all recovered from all infections. All glory to God for that, I believe. And while I was in the hospital in 2022, I fully turned over my life to Jesus, and I said, I commit my body to you. I'm done trying to control my body, trying to control my food. Like, just show me how to live, show me what your purpose is for me. And that led me to this mindset switch of, carnivore can help me nourish my body properly. Instead of this restriction mindset, I flipped it to, meat is the most nutrient dense food that I can eat, and I want to show my body love by eating it.
We'll come back to that, but walk us through what was your spiritual religious belief and background prior to that? And was there a defining moment? Maybe it was the evil clock and, all the different things. But what was that defining moment that made you wake up or all of a sudden say, I'm turning my life over?
Yeah, I grew up in the church, Southern Baptist. If the doors were open, I was there, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, youth groups, everything. I even played in the church orchestra, just everything. So just kind of surrounded by that spiritual practice. And, you know, um, I went through periods of doubt, as everyone does. But I thought that I was saved, but it wasn't until I was lying in that hospital bed that I realized I'm still holding on to this piece. I still want to be in charge. I haven't really accepted and surrendered to Jesus as my savior. And I really do think it was seeing the demons. I think those were real. I don't think they were, hallucinated. I believe in spiritual warfare. And, I mean, I know what I saw. And I believe I just felt God calling me to Him, and I answered.
Wow, that's a very profound story. So, would you say that that's when you started healing your anorexia and eating disorder? Were you still, I know you were in the hospital and all of that, but you mentioned 2022 is when you relapsed. So, would you say that's when the start of your healing of that began?
Yes, definitely. But after the hospital, I was put in that rehab facility, like I was telling you. But after I was able to get out of the treatment center, that's when I really shifted back to carnivore as healing and as the protocol for healing. I did what I had to do to get through that facility, um, and did not enjoy it at all. Did not agree with their methods, but fortunately, it kind of woke me up to reality that okay, this is serious. I need to take care of myself and make some changes.
So then what happened? You were already fairly committed to carnivore. You obviously got out of the treatment facility, dove into carnivore. What changed for you in terms of your eating pattern? What did you study someone specific? Like, were you following Dr. Ken Berry? I know you met him at Meatstock, so maybe, but he's kind of the one that introduced you to a lot of that. Walk us through getting out of treatment, having this new philosophy of, I'm going to live, I'm going to heal my body, I'm committed to Jesus, and I'm committed to carnivore. So then what happened?
Yeah. So previously when I had relapsed into my eating disorder and I was eating carnivore, I thought, I have to carnivore harder than everybody else. I have to do one meal a day and it's a steak and I have to weigh it and make sure it's like exactly my macros and like, I was just obsessive compulsive about it. But after this mindset shift, like now I don't track anything. I eat when I'm hungry, I stop when I'm full, and even just to say that is an absolute miracle. Like, because of struggling with, well, like binge eating in college and then anorexia and bulimia. I mean, I've had all the things, okay? To be able to just eat to satiety and stop and then, eat again when I'm hungry. I mean, just that in itself is a miracle. So it usually looks like 2 or 3 meals a day. Today's probably going to be a 3 meal day because I'm pretty hungry. I just had some chicken wings before we got on here. But I usually get up and I work out fasted. Then I come home and make myself something to eat. And then, a little bit later when I get hungry, make myself something to eat again. But usually 2 or 3 meals a day. It's usually, I like a lot of chicken wings and I like a lot of like roasts and ground beef. I'm not so much a steak girl, actually. I do a lot of like briskets, picanha. And then I love just like a bowl of ground beef. Like, I don't know why. Sometimes that just hits the spot.
I love that you're saying all that. When you very first said that you kind of felt like, or you were using carnivore as a bit of an eating disorder too, the kind of a question mark went off in my brain thinking, what exactly do you mean by that? And I've actually done a video, I'll post it right up here, on is carnivore disordered eating. But now listening to you, I get that because the longer you go through this journey, it's just like what you said. There are so many purists out there. Well, you're not truly carnivore if you don't do it this way, or this is
Mhm.
not really carnivore, or if you're going to do carnivore, you've got to do intermittent fasting and you've got to do OMAD, 1 meal a day, and all of this. And the reality of it is a confused mind says no. And that's going to derail people and it is going to lead them to a bit of disordered eating, thinking, am I doing it the right way? Oh, maybe I should only be eating ribeyes. And I love hearing you say, look, I like chicken wings and a bowl of ground beef, and I like roast better. And let's face it, steak is uber expensive. And so when you get people to the point of thinking, well, you can only do carnivore one way, and it's got to be a ribeye every day and all of that, people are going to throw their hands up and say, I can't really do this. So I love the people who keep it real and say, yeah, I'm not all about the steak. And that's one thing I love about Dr. Ken Berry is, he's like, here's my ground beef and I bought it at Walmart. It's not
Yeah, he
grass
always
fed.
says eat the
Yeah,
meat you can afford. And
right.
I agree with that 100%. And I'm not interested in other people's labels anymore. When I first came to carnivore, I wanted to make sure, okay, oh my God, like I can't eat this and that and no drinks with stevia or like, this and you know what? I want to be happy and enjoy my life, and I'm not interested in fitting into your label. So, occasionally I do make things like carnivore brownies with equipped protein powder that has a little bit of cacao powder in it. I don't ever, of course, do sugar or grains or veggies or fruits or anything like that, but sometimes I do like those protein powders and making them into like a little treat, especially if I have company coming over. I'll make a carnivore cheesecake, that's got blueberry protein powder in it, so sue me. Like, it makes me happy. I like it. So, I would just say if you want to be a purist, that's great, but don't try to box me into it. Don't shame me for what I enjoy and what I do and how I live my life. And I think for the most part, like we were talking about at the beginning, this community is very supportive of that. Find your lane, stay in it, don't listen to the haters. Find what fuels you the best. Like I'm here to, like I was saying, Jesus saved me and he has a purpose for me and a plan for me. So eating however is going to fuel that purpose, that's what I'm about.
I love that. Okay, so let's jump into, let's say it was the end of 2022-ish when all of this occurred. Then you attended Meat Stock in May of 2025. So that was almost 2.5 years. What led you to Meat Stock? Had you attended other meetups? Like, talk us through that because I know I'm going to meet you this next year,
Yeah,
if
I'm
not before, for
excited.
Meat
Yeah, I
Stock
cannot wait.
2026. I'm so looking forward to it. And I feel like that's such a pivotal thing of finding community and building that team and that tribe of not only just accountability but truly support. So tell us about your progression to finding Meat Stock and attending.
Sure. Well, when I was living in Tampa, so I live in South Carolina now, since my divorce, very happily. And but when I was living in Tampa, I actually hosted a meetup of people in Tampa and just got together several people, and we had some sponsors like Redmond's sent us some promos to give away, and I think Pluck did too. So it was really cool. If you reach out to these companies, I mean, I'm a nobody, at that time, especially, I was a total nobody. But I just reached out to these companies and said, hey, we're getting together a bunch of meat lovers and we love your salt and we love your stuff. So, how about sending us some and we'll rep you in all our pictures and everything like that. And they did. They sent me a bunch of free stuff. It was great. So this community is all about sharing the information and getting to the truth and helping each other out. But yeah, I hosted that meetup in Tampa. That was really fun. Danny and Mara Vega were there. That was really cool to meet them. And now that I'm in Greenville, I'm looking for a crew. I haven't been here that long, so maybe I'll get around to hosting something here in the upstate South Carolina. Hit me up, y'all, if you live up here. But I just saw Meat Stock an ad for it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, what's this? I had no idea that it had been going on. I hadn't really been plugged into social media for a little bit, and but it was a great event. I stayed in one of the cabins, had a great time, met awesome people.
Yeah, it's
Definitely
amazing.
going next year too. Yeah.
Yeah, good, good. My very first meetup, I hadn't attended anything, not even just a daytime. And I live in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. I mean, we're the fifth largest city in
Mhm.
the country. And I know that there have been some things here, but we're doing the same thing. Myself and Hal Cranmer, who runs the assisted living facilities here. I'll link his video up here. Because I interviewed him, and what he's doing with the senior community and Carnivore is amazing. But interestingly, he came up in my Twitter X feed, and I started following him. And then I realized he lived in Scottsdale. And then we met for coffee, and we lived 2 miles apart.
Oh, that's so great.
Crazy. So we're starting to put together events in the Phoenix area. So I'll put a link down below too to let us know if you're in that area, and we'll certainly put all of your social media stuff so that your crew can get together too. Because I feel like these things are so very important. But I had never attended anything, and then interestingly, the Steak and Butter Gang, Bella with Steak and Butter Gal, her meetup, it showed up on one of her YouTube videos, and she was promoting it, and it was over July 4th in Bozeman, Montana. Well, live in the desert in Scottsdale,
I
which means,
saw pictures of that. I wish I could have gone to that. That
oh,
looked amazing.
well, it was literally life changing for me. It truly was, because for the first time, I mean, I was brought to tears by so many of the stories, much
Mm.
like your story. And I don't consider myself a super emotional person, but when you see the depth of the pain and chronic illness and obesity and all of the issues with that, and then you watch people and you see
Yeah.
their pictures and you see them now and you hear their story of transformation, and you realize there's hope for me. If they can do it, anyone can do it, whatever your situation is. Not everybody comes to carnivore because they want to lose weight. Not everybody comes because they've got chronic issues, but most people come for something. Something
Mm.
has gone wrong that makes them say, there's got to be a better way. And so I just can't encourage enough for people to get to these events so that you build a community, you build a tribe, and you expand your circle. Hey, Wellness Warrior, if you're even thinking about carnivore, you've got to get to Meatstock 2026 in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. The top doctors, experts, and real life success stories all in one place. Incredible meals, amazing community, and conversations that will change your health journey, just like it did mine when I attended my first Steak and Butter Gang meetup in Montana. Use my referral code LTL to get $50 off any ticket package of your choice. Go to meatstockconvention.com. I'll be there, and I hope to see you there too. So drop a comment if you're attending, as we will be meeting up with the Lower Toxic Life Warriors. You can reach out to me also by going to peakperformancehabits.com/contact.
Yeah, and I think when you meet people in person, you're more likely to understand that you can have your own lifestyle, like what we were talking about earlier. I think when you just only connect with people on social media, it tends to do this like comparison and copycat mentality. Like I first, started out, oh, well, I have to carnivore harder than everybody else. But when you meet people in person and you see that there's such a variety of experiences, like you're talking about, everyone comes for a different kind of reason, then you understand more fully that this is such this lifestyle is just such a blessing in that it can be so different for so many different people. It's so flexible to accommodate whatever you're going through. And I think when you see people in person and hear the variety of the stories, it encourages that kind of mindset. And so I definitely encourage people to meet IRL, as the kids say these days.
Yes. I love that you're saying the kids. I'm calling you a kid, but that's okay.
Well, my brother's 19, so he keeps me up on all the latest slang and such. So,
Very good. So talk a little bit about two things. One is what type of diet and nutrition, I should say food protocol. I don't like the word diet because it gets so mixed up what that means. But how did you grow up eating? And then what is your family's carnivore philosophy now? Because I believe you're a little bit at odds.
oh yeah. So I grew up again with two parents that are doctors. My mom is an allergist and pulmonologist. My dad is a cardiologist, and he is fully bought into the red meat, saturated fat and cholesterol, and it's all gonna kill you. And mad cow disease was going around when I was growing up, and we weren't allowed to eat red meat when I was growing up. Period. End of story. And I've told other people this on other podcasts, but the first time I had a steak, I was in my 20s, and it was like my brain had an orgasm. Like it woke up, like it just, like it was a moment of glory, I'm telling you. And my parents still eat they eat a lot of fish and chicken and plants and beans and, tacos, and they're not fast food people. They're not, they don't buy, frozen stuff and processed food. My mom cooks, and everything like that, but it's still very grain heavy, bean heavy, sort of thing. So, I mean, I would say they are healthier than a lot of Americans in that they cook all the time. They never go out to eat. They don't buy the processed food and heat up, corn dogs for us or whatever, Um, but again, it's not quite where it needs to be. And my parents, my mom especially considers carnivore to be an eating disorder, and she believes that I'm still anorexic. And I'm like, well, you need to follow me on Instagram and look at what I'm eating because 4 pounds of meat a day, I'm pretty sure doesn't qualify into that. I'm pretty sure I'm out eating her calorically, every day, constantly. It's just a matter of what type of food are you choosing to fuel your body with? And I just have a different choice than they do. Fortunately, my dad, he actually came to visit me about 2 weeks ago. And I think he had been very worried about me until he saw me and he realized that I'm thriving. And he still doesn't agree with me, but he has respected the boundary that I've set with him regarding, hey, this is my choice. And I'm doing the best I've ever done mentally, physically, everything. If I wasn't eating carnivore, my mental health would be an absolute wreck. It is more, I believe carnivore is even more important to my mental health than it is to my physical health, quite honestly. Um, and so, my siblings, I have four siblings. My sisters are triplets. Um, my sisters and brother think I'm crazy, but they also see, again, that I'm doing very well, and that I'm healing from the anorexia. So they're supportive of my carnivore journey. They just kind of make jokes about it, oh, that crazy girl, but they're supportive of whatever's going to make me healthy. And it's just my parents that you know, need some work.
Yeah, it's interesting. Old beliefs die hard. They definitely die hard. And I went through a number of years being really mad at the medical community, really mad at doctors, just really mad. We've been lied to, we've been fed so much misinformation and all this stuff. And then I realized, you know what? a doctor is only as good as their training. It's really not their fault. And unless
They're the
they
ones that have been fed the misinformation.
totally. And so it's being perpetuated on down the line until you do find that rare breed of doctors, which I think more and more, I think 2020 did us a real favor in
Yes.
making a lot of people wake
Yes.
up and go, these dots are not connecting. And so I think more people, including the medical community, is going, oh, maybe what I learned from, a textbook and a professor and all the rest of that, maybe that wasn't quite as scientific as I was told that it was. And it is so funny. I don't know about you, but and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you can't trust Chat GPT for all of this. And I agree. But if you learn how to use it appropriately and you learn how to work with it to make it look at different viewpoints, it is brilliant what it will show you. And the classic thing, one of my biggest struggles was oxalate overload. Like I was totally, in that category because I was doing keto and, almond flour this and almond
Yep.
butter that and,
Yep.
the little fat bombs and all the stuff. I mean, I was
Yep.
consuming between 2 and 3,000 milligrams a day of
Oh,
oxalates. And, my body just finally hit like a popcorn maker. It finally flowed over and said enough. But um, when I look at all that, one of the things that you could just even go out and research it. They always tell us, oh, spinach is great for iron. You can get all the iron you need from spinach. Well, it's not untrue that there's a lot of iron in spinach. What
guess
is
what else
not
has a lot of
true,
iron?
what is not
Red
true
meat.
is that, yeah, the human body cannot process. It's not the same iron that's in
Right.
red
Right.
meat. And so the human body does not process only but a tiny little percentage. The amount of spinach you would have to eat to even get close to the recommended daily allowance, which is basically just to keep you alive, is crazy. And so when you start
Yeah, it's
making
a question of
corrections.
bioavailability.
Yes, yes. But when you're, reading these peer-reviewed, Harvard School of Nutrition, the T-Chan, what, like all of those, and you're following that, and Walter Willett and all these people who are, totally promoting this plant-based diet and nothing but that. When you start digging down and uncovering their research, you realize, well, it's only half the truth. What they're saying is not untrue, but it's not the full truth for the human body. So we've got
Yeah,
to do our
it's
own diligence.
yeah, there's just so much. We are in information overload today, and that's almost a bad thing. And I'm not saying we should go back to the time before the internet or anything like that, but you do have to be willing to do your own research first of all, and then I mean, it just takes time. You have to care about yourself, you know? You can't hate yourself into health. And
Yeah.
that's really what I learned on my recovery journey from anorexia because I hated my body and I wanted to change it. And now it's about loving your body. And I'm not saying, like I'm not falling into the whole like oh, what do you call it? The fat approval
Body positivity.
body po thank you. Yes, I couldn't. Yeah, I'm not glorifying the body positivity movement by any stretch. But I am saying you have to love yourself enough and care about yourself enough to want to do that research and to sift through it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And there's just so much going around. There really is a lot of misinformation going around, but it's usually perpetuated by the people claiming that they have the settled science. If anyone says, the science is settled on XYZ, then just run the other direction.
Kind of off topic, but not exactly, since you've experienced so much of your own um, medical trauma, if you will, through your very young life. Do you have any thoughts about what's going on today? Like I'm looking around as a parent of a son who's almost 33. My daughter's 30. As I shared with you, she's currently going through cancer treatment. It's a very rare blood cancer, but she doesn't fit so many of the stereotypes. And honestly, I raised my children extremely healthy, eating whole foods, not a lot of ultra processed, not a lot of added sugars, any of that, because I grew up that way and, perpetuated that. Thankfully, my husband's the same way. And so that's kind of how we raised them. But I'm looking around and I'm thinking, man, all of this chronic illness, the turbo cancers, so many things. Type 2 diabetes for sure, fatty liver disease with the youth today. Any thoughts around that? I mean, do you feel like it's our food supply? I'm sure that's part of it. Do you feel like it's EMF? Do you feel like it's environmental toxics, chemicals? What is your thought on that? And have you done kind of your own due diligence with asking questions around any of that?
Well, I'm certainly no expert, but I think it's just a large number of factors. You can't point to any one thing and say, oh, it's just this, it's just that, it's just the fluoride in the water, it's just the food dyes, it's just, I think there's been, oh, just for so long, there have been so many factors all combining together behind the scenes that have contributed to, I mean, we do have an epidemic going on in this country, and it starts young. It starts, the first time, a mother might have to feed formula to their baby. If you turn that around and you look at what's in it, it's soybean oil. I mean, we are feeding ourselves like motor oil lubricant and then wondering why we feel like shit. It's just, um,
Well, it's funny. Literally, right here, my daughter's having stem cell uh, transplant tomorrow. And so my husband and I, as her caregivers, had to go through a training. This is what they sent us home with
oh
to
God.
feed her,
Oh,
ensure, right? And I already
mm.
knew, like, my mom wanted to drink this, my dad, and I was like, absolutely
Yeah,
not. So
read
you turn
read
it
the
over.
label.
Yeah,
Read it
corn
for
syrup.
people so they know.
Corn syrup. I have to put my
Mhm.
cheaters on. But yeah, like seriously, I looked at this and I'm going in 2 weeks and
And
I'm
that's
taking
the
this
kind of
with me.
stuff they fed us in the eating disorder treatment center too. If
Yeah.
you didn't finish your meal, you had to drink one of those.
I
And
mean,
it's
corn
essentially,
fiber, it just
hmm
goes on and on. I just was like, oh, there's nothing about this. Canola oil. I mean, it's just filled with
hmm
that. And I'm taking this with me in 2 weeks when I go through my program of it. This was my husband's class. I'm going to take this in and I'm going to read the label out loud. I'm going to
Yeah,
be like
do
the
it.
contrary person and say, really? Really? What you don't think that diet relates at all to cancer, which all of her oncologists have said, no, doesn't matter what, eat whatever you
Um,
want, doesn't matter. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to argue with them. They can do their lane. I'm going to do my own lane. But yeah, exactly like what you're saying with baby formula. Same
it's
thing with the
insane.
senior
It's just
community.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to detach yourself from quote unquote the system, all of it. And I'm talking medical, I'm talking political, I'm talking, the food system. And that's why I do consider myself, a self-sufficiency like prepper as much as possible. You need to make your own life, like make your own lifestyle for yourself. Make a life that you don't have to escape from. Make a beautiful, self-sufficient life where you depend on yourself and not other people to supply your needs. And I think when you do that as much as you possibly can, um, you'll be happier, you'll be healthier, and you'll be on the right track. So,
Yeah, I love that. I agree. Well, Marianne, tell us how we can find you and follow you.
yeah, thank you. So, I'm on Instagram at Pegleg Carnivore, and I do have a little blog with like some fun recipes and stuff, peglegcarnivore.com.
What do you see for the future for you? If you were to project yourself out 5 years from now, I know this is putting you on the spot, but if you were to wave a magic wand, what do you want to be doing?
Oh man, one day I really would love to have, like I said, I raise quail for the meat and the eggs, and I've had goats before, but one day I'd really love to have a few more acres and have my own eating disorder recovery facility that's out in nature with animals, with therapy, with proper nutrition. I would just love to have that and help other people truly recover from their eating disorders and find the Lord if that's what they're interested in, or find their higher power, find their higher purpose. But I would love to do that the right way and break from the system and have something like that of my own.
Well, watching and hearing your story of what you've gone through the last really over 3 years for sure. It goes way back longer than that to 2013, even with your eating disorder and all the recovery that you've done, the personal work and the growth and having the Lord as your savior and helping you and guiding you on this journey. I have no doubt whatsoever that you're going to achieve that.
Thank you. I would love it. Y'all just pray for me, and if you want to reach out, I absolutely would love to talk to anybody that has more questions for me. I'm an open book, so just hit me up on socials.
We'll do that. And just one final question. If you had any advice for anyone that is experiencing an eating disorder and, really committed to recovery, what would you share with them?
Well, first of all, you do have to admit that you've got the problem because that was the biggest step. But just be open, open your heart to what other people are saying and welcome other people's advice. It's so hard because you want to maintain that control, but you've got to let go. You've got to try something new because what you're doing isn't working. But reach out to different people, get different advice, talk to a vegan, talk to a carnivore, but find what works for you and don't be afraid to change.
I love that. Well, Marianne, thank you so much. I will see you at Meat Stock 2026, if
Yes,
not
you will. I'm so
before.
excited.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm inspired. I've already told her I'm her adopted mom in Arizona, and I hope you'll adopt her too. So leave me a comment below. Let me know what impacted you the most. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I hope to meet you along with Marianne at Meatstock 2026 and grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com to explore how a journey like this might just benefit you. It also includes my grocery list. Now, watch this next video coming up just for you.